There we go. Got past some technical difficulties. Ooh. All right. What's up, Twitch for musicians? What's up, Kim? I'm not a subtle dude, man. I'm just not a subtle dude. I'm gonna let the room warm up for a sec, Karen, and then I'll bring everybody in. Kim's like, peace, love, and not being quiet. Did you really? You replied to my email. I can't wait. What's up, Wu-Tang? Super stoked to see everybody. Thank you for bringing your fans over, Ms. Kim. I'm in some new digs today, and Wi-Fi should be a little faster. I don't have anything set up yet, but I think the pipes should be running a little more smoothly these days. We'll see about that. One of my specialties is to bring on people who have a real British accent and then do my awkward fake British accent. And they're like, what are you doing, dude? How is everybody? Oh, is it really? The image is clearer. Wow. Yeah, so our Wi-Fi is looking like it's about 15 to 20 upload, which is not like blisteringly fast, but I think it's fast enough for, you know, for faster. It's faster enough. What's up, T? All right, guys, we've got a good hour with one of the smartest live streaming people on the planet. So bring your A-list questions, or just hang with us, or just ask any kind of questions. Karen's amazing. You're gonna love her. You ready to pop on, Ms. Allen? I can only hang until 1:30. Okay, cool. We can do that. We can do that. Kim usually has some A-game questions. I'm gonna try and bring you on now, Karen, and sometimes, what's up, 7,000? What's up, everybody? And I feel like I haven't seen you guys in a minute. We're doing pretty good. Seems like everybody's got some good mojo in the place today. So this sometimes happens, Karen. Do me a favor. You can close out your browser. If you can close out, you're probably looking at this on a browser. If you close up and then pop it back open, that usually fixes it. If not, you can raise your hand. Yeah, refresh. Tori probably gave you the pre-production rundown, as she does. What's up, Ray? Thanks, 7,000. Thank you very much. Dude, I feel like this is gonna be good already. It froze. Okay, boom. Look at this. See, this is why she's on today. This is like a new car and you're driving better than anybody else.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is like a dream come true for me.
Aw.
I'm serious. And I hope that the people that are in here, you know, I've been sort of peppering this for a few weeks now since I knew that you were going to be coming in. And, you know, we've been doing this for 5 months now since the pandemic started. What's up, Ray? Thank you for bringing your fans over. This is a good crowd of people. And a lot of these folks have been kind of regular since we started. I mean, again, we don't go back that far, but this is like going to be a really fun room for you, I think. 7,000, thank you for bringing your peeps over. I would love for you to introduce yourself and just give people kind of a bird's eye view of why I'm so excited to have you on here. But I'll just preface it by saying that the whole reason that this exists really is because when I was interviewing Sherry Hugh and I was interviewing Emma McGann for a piece I was writing, they both said, yeah, I'd be down to sort of come on and do this live on live crazy idea that never started before and has no people on it.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just so cool about it. And they're so amazing. And they're such incredible, I think, contributors to the whole space that I thought, well, fuck, I mean, I at least have to do 2 of these. And then just to get a taste of it and see what, and it's just sort of taken on a life of its own. So you're easily in that category, and I'm super stoked to have you here. So maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit and tell people about your background in streaming and sort of digital music, etc.
Yeah, sure. So I've actually been live streaming since 2015. I started on YouNow. I know. So what I really do in my life, I do strategy and biz dev for digital entertainment companies, mostly startups, help them figure out where they fit in the marketplace. I help them go to market with whatever they've built, help them find clients and strategic partners, and basically just kind of be their Sherpa to help them grow their business. I don't do marketing. It's mostly just a business development, which is kind of sales, but not always sales, and strategic partnerships and sort of guiding them through the industry. So that's what I do. And because I do that, I have to pay attention to a lot of trends and new things that are happening and what's working for creators and what's not working for creators. And I stumbled across YouNow in the course of doing work for a few clients, and obviously had worked with live streaming in some respect for quite a while. I focus mostly on music, but not only music. So actually, first digital music company I've ever worked for, we will say it's the very first live concert broadcast ever, but it's hotly debated who actually did the very first one. We were certainly one of the first. So I knew how complicated it was to do it. So when I came across YouNow and saw how easy it was to go live, and how people were actually making money directly from viewers for content that looked a hell of a lot like YouTube content to me, which nobody would pay for, I had to figure it out. I had to really figure out why are people paying for this when we can't get them to pay for YouTube Red, which is what it was called then, which would take out all the ads and so forth. And it's a site-wide, $5 a month subscription, whatever it was. But they'll pay $5 per channel, and they'll also tip, and what's happening. So I figured I'm not really going to understand this unless I do it. So I started a channel on YouNow called Ask an Adult. And because it was by and large Gen Z who was on YouNow, and I am not Gen Z, and this is video and I can't fake it. So I did Ask an Adult, and the whole premise was basically
Kim had YouTube Red.
Yeah, of course she did.
Early adopters.
Yeah, I can tell she's an early adopter. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so the premise was basically, if you want to ask me anything you would like to ask an adult, just not an adult in your life, then hit me. But I'm also not a counselor or a therapist or even a mother. So I'm just older than you and can give you my best shot. So I just kind of went live, and kind of like we're doing now, kind of like you've been doing. I just went live and just started, yammering on. And met a bunch of great people, and I got it. I really, really got what was happening and why people would pay for it, and what was happening between the creator and the audience that wasn't happening on other platforms, and how that was meaningful to them. And it became very apparent to me that once people feel that they're truly getting something of value, then they are willing to give something of value. And if you give them low engagement, low monetization options for that, they will do them. And as they progress down the fan cycle, once there's high monetization and high engagement opportunities to give, they will do that. And that's exactly what I saw happening on YouNow. And so I'm like, okay, so who else is doing this? What other platforms are out there? Is this an anomaly? Like Vine at the time was very much an anomaly. Like only Gen Z kids are going to do Vine. Like it was, you couldn't see any other generation or any other like groupie people really doing Vine. So I'm like, is this like Vine where it's just a very specific thing that the kids these days, are doing, or does this travel? So I looked at Twitch.
Travel, you mean across demographic or travel across platforms?
Exactly. Either.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And at the time, Facebook Live was being very active, and they were paying, tens of millions of dollars to big content brands Tastemade and BuzzFeed and
Mm-hmm.
all these companies to do lives on Facebook Live, which went nowhere for a lot of reasons. But people were making money on YouNow. So I started looking at all the other platforms and kind of comparing and contrasting. And the closest thing I could really find was Live.me and Twitch. And it was striking to me how on Twitch, it was not millennials. It was not kids talking about kid stuff. It was, generally adults post-college, mostly, playing games or playing music or doing things they like. And I'm like, okay, wow. So this is not something that is just what the kids are doing, basically. This is something that is, if you can just find the right content category to create a platform around, and even more succinctly, a community around, and put these community dynamics in there, then people will do it and it will be successful, and people can actually be creators. And the other thing that really got me about people who are successful on live stream platforms were they generally were not big on another platform. It's not like they were big.
Interesting.
Yeah, at that time at least.
They broke on X platform.
I call it being a native live streamer. That's
Okay.
my little term for it. Basically, they were not big YouTubers that could easily flip their, million person following into 500 concurrents on the regular, like on a live streaming service. That wasn't the deal. These were people who were their first foray into being a public figure on the internet was on this platform, which if you think about it, that's really a complicated thing to do for any platform, especially when you have a sort of marketplace style ecosystem like a live stream platform, where you need the creators every bit as much as you need the viewers, and you need them there at the same time, so there's no time shifting.
And you need them to be able to find each other and assess each other and gather easily, and I like this, so I'll also like this. There's all these things that have to sort of snap into place in order for that to work at scale, right?
Right. So for just from a growth standpoint, like if you put yourself in like a founder's shoes for a second, like I have this new thing I want people to use. It is hard enough to get them to try it on a time shifted basis. It's hard enough to get enough content in any platform to make it seem like there's something happening here, when anybody comes, which means they're going to want to come back again. It's hard enough when that's time shifted. And time shifting is Facebook, it's Twitter, it's Instagram, it's put it up there, it lives as long as it's there, and people can watch it anytime. It's hard enough when you don't have that constraint of immediacy. It's super difficult for a brand new platform, like at the time, LiveMe at the time, which, no one had ever heard of. What's this thing? What's this live streaming? What's this all about? Plus there's people on here I've never heard of. Like, it's a really impossible thing kind of to accomplish in general. So to see that there were so many people doing it, it really spoke to what they were getting out of it, what the creators were getting out of it. And it's not just money, and what the viewers were getting out of it. So that was the big, sort of game-changing moment. And I've been in this for a long time, and I've really never seen anything that ticks off so many boxes for giving creators complete creative freedom and giving them financial security and developing deep relationships with their fans, and also growing a fan base. Like, it's really hard to grow a fan base, period, let alone once they're through the door, get them to know you better, and then to be able to, flip that into, hey, I've got a pre-save campaign on Spotify. Hey, I'm going on tour. I've got a merch drop. Like, it's really hard to get fans of that level. You got to get them pretty far down the fan life cycle, and live streaming accelerates that because there's this immediacy.
Well, it's funny, Kim had mentioned that too, and I think both the creators and the whatever the other side of the coin is, because I hear this sort of gray area of, creators don't like calling their fans, at least on YouNow. There's this kind of reticence, like, it's my community, it's my people, it's my crew. Right. I think that word fan has a sort of stigma to it, like, oh, you're my fans, you come to my show. But the sort of relationship is very different. The other thing I would add that I've seen just in the last couple of months of doing this, and it wraps back around, Kim, to your question a little bit, is like, I think in addition to all those other things that creators get, they also get chops. And what I mean by that is, I've heard so many times just in the last few weeks, but much less over the last 5 months, that, you know, I didn't play guitar until I started live streaming. Like, what?
Right?
I've
Yeah.
never sang before in front of anybody, and now I sing as a creator on live streaming and get regular viewers. That's insane to me.
Yeah,
So
it
the
is insane.
fact that you could develop chops, skills, performance abilities, the ability to have stage presence, for lack of a better term, is something artists work on for years and years and years. And to see people achieving that in a couple of weeks or months,
Yeah.
there's something amazing there that I don't know if you've seen that with. Most of your artists are probably a little more advanced. Thank you, Tori. Right? But I think, have you noticed that with the people you're working with, that there's this sort of accelerated learning curve as well in the live streaming world?
Yeah, there's an accelerated learning curve when it comes to reading an audience,
Right.
and adjusting, you know, whatever you're creating for that audience, while still not letting the tail wag the dog, which is really
Right.
important. Like, I don't think anybody should be, you know, coin operated, so to speak. I think you do your show and people contribute either ideas, suggestions, requests, money, whatever it is, but it is ultimately up to you how you incorporate it into your show,
Right.
like into your stream. But yeah, I definitely see the artists who were not famous, you know, didn't have huge followings, very much amateur, beginning their career, like say in the first 3 years of their musician career, for the ones who are really serious about it.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen them have a level of performance that it would normally take an artist, you know, years and years and years to do, because you only get that by playing live.
Right.
You know, and you generally don't play that many shows live locally to an audience that's, you know, giving back to you. And then even when I had, sorry, I'm very sniffly today.
That's okay.
Even when I was back managing artists, like, you know, back in the day, we'd have artists who were good and they'd play around town and that was all fine and everything. And then we'd send them on the road for like 30 days. Like they would do a tour of America and they'd play shitholes for 10 people. And that was the gig, because that's all they could draw right now. But label would pay for it. And we'd do these, you know, support acts and so forth. And they would come back so much better, so much more solid, so much more together, so much more relaxed on stage. You know, they vibe with each other on a whole different level.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah,
agrees.
it takes years normally to
it's
get
interesting.
that.
It's also interesting, Kim, because Kim has a background in playing at, you know, in live environments, and she plays at Howl at the Moon, and she's a musician's musician. She's multi-instrumentalist, has studied music, understands all of that. But then on the live stream environment, it's different than a stage environment. It's really quite different, right? How would you've worked with probably artists that do quite well on stage but struggle in live streaming, and maybe do quite well in live streaming but struggle when they get on stage. How would you compare or translate back and forth from one to the other?
Yeah, I think going from a regular, normal, non-live stream artist to live streaming is harder than a live stream artist to go on stage.
Why is that?
From what I've seen.
Uh-huh.
Because live stream artists are so comfortable with themselves, and they're so comfortable with their material, and they're used to vibing off an audience or not. You know,
right? Just
you're not always.
Thing.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
they do their thing and they read the chat, and if the chat's kind of slow, big deal. They're
Yeah.
going to do their set. You know, they're going to do their show and whatever. They're just a lot more comfortable in their own skin. And the artists who haven't live streamed yet feel like pressure. You know, and actually after they've done it, you know, once or twice, they're like, oh, this is completely different than I thought it was going to be. Like they think it is, you know, a 2-hour long YouTube video where everything has to be perfect and I've got to sound just right.
Right.
And what if I mess up? And, you know, artists, especially big artists, are really afraid to mess up and make mistakes.
Well, they've been trained that a show is costing someone $40 or $20 or whatever, and it's a 2-hour compressed version of all of your artistry and all of your persona in one, and it better hit. Yeah, right. So that's a very different thing than like, we're going to do it again today. It's going to be great. It's going to be up. It's going to be down. We're
Well,
going
they're
to
also
roll on
studio
together.
rats. You know, they have a lot of time to polish things in the studio.
That's also true. They're trained to be perfectionists.
Yeah, and when they have a live album, like it records and then it goes into the studio for 2 weeks. You know, like even look, I worked with a company that had a great business. What they would do is they would record a show live, and then as you're walking out of the theater, you could go to a kiosk and download it to an MP3, like that. And we had a really hard time getting artists to do it because they're like, well, but what if that song didn't sound good? What if I messed up? What if my voice cracked? You know, I want to be able to fix this. And everyone's like, that is so not the point. People want to relive the moment they had with you. They don't care that it's polished. And it was so hard. So that's the mentality of the regular music industry, which is why I didn't write a book for the music industry. I wrote a book for independent artists. I wrote a book for DIY artists to learn how to live stream because I knew they would do it, you know, and they had more to gain and less to lose. And the perception of established artists is I have a lot to lose and not that much to gain. So I wrote this specifically for the DIY musician because I thought that this was such an extraordinary way for them to build an audience, which is difficult to do when no one knows who you are, and really engage the audience and then turn that engagement into actual money. And I've honestly never seen anything. I don't work for Twitch. I don't work for YouNow. I'm totally independent. This is just something that like was a massive eye opener for me 5 years ago. And I started kind of going down this rabbit hole. And then last year, beginning of 2019 is when I was like, okay, I'm going to build a channel. Like I built a channel for myself on YouNow. I'm going to build a channel for my friend Marina V. And I'm going to learn Twitch inside out, just the way I learned YouNow. And it was so much more complex and way harder to figure out and super techy that I'm like, okay, people are not going to do this. So that's why I wrote a book, because I really wish there was a book when I was figuring it out. It's just, there's all this, you know, there's like 300 to 500 YouTube videos that all tell you about a very specific thing to do, you know, on OBS or on Stream Elements or on Streamlabs. But God forbid anybody breaks it down A to Z. You know, like, do I need an overlay? I don't know. What's an overlay? Like, you know, I've thought I could go live from Twitch. Isn't it like, you know, what's OBS? I've never seen a program like this before. How does this work? You know, it was just like every little thing was just, you know, and I'm actually good at technology. I've been doing this for a really long time. So I love internet stuff and I caught into it really quickly. But just figuring like every little thing was just like a dive into Google. What is this? How does this work? Okay, this works. This piece of this thing I got to figure out now. It was just so insane. So I was like, artists aren't going to do this, but they should. It's such a insanely good resource for them. So that's kind of how I got from 2015 being on YouNow to being Twitch for Musicians right now.
Love it. Couple quick shout outs. Kim, it's so awesome to have you here. I'm still wrapping back around to your sort of comment / question about creators being attracted onto the platform. So have a great drum lesson and you'll hear your answer to your question / comment on the replay. Yuma, you've lost your mind, but I love you for it. Thank you very much for the likes. It's great to see you again. I haven't seen you in a little while. I know you guys are up to some really good shenanigans at your studio in Germany. And they're going to, one of the things that potentially, Karen, would be cool to talk about because it probably could touch upon, see you soon, Kim. Thank you so much.
Very quickly, Kim, thanks for promoting the book and thanks for buying it. It's amazing. Also, it's on sale. It's my 1 year anniversary, so it's only $10 on my site. So yeah.
Well worth it. And is that the Kindle version or the regular?
It's a PDF
hardback?
basically.
Oh, it's a PDF.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it is a little bit lower on book retailers, but if you buy it from me directly, it's $10 for the PDF ebook. And the course right now is on sale for $100. I have a whole, 10 chapter, 10 hours worth of video course where if you don't like to read, you want someone to show you how to do it. I literally show you how to do every little thing. And you can ask me questions there too. And that's $100 right now. Usually it's like $197. So
amazing.
Yay, anniversaries.
Yeah. And I mean, it was one of my first parlays into this world 5-6 months ago was that book. and as I've told you on conversations, I mean, I think a lot of it, well, I guess maybe 60% of it is specific to Twitch in terms of the tech. Thank you, Kim. But there's probably 20, 30+% of it that applies across the board to how does this work, how to think about this. It's well worth the investment. And I think it's a great read. I'm trying to think of other stuff that's come up. One of my skills is kind of like incorporating. This is a tricky venue, to be honest, with the live streaming and an interview, because I'm literally trying to sort of take in, okay, here are things that are being said, but then the people that we have on are so informative and so good at what they do that it's usually like 5 or 10 minutes after the fact that I'm like sort of, collecting things that people have said. So I want to mention a couple things that just put out there in the convo that we can touch upon a little bit. One is attracting creators. In other words, I think it's interesting, and let's keep it specific to music just because that's sort of our sort of sweet spot. And I think a lot of people on here, that's what they're quote looking at is, what kinds of creators are moving into or attracted to live streaming in general, or to like YouNow or Twitch. That's one aspect we could talk about. Let's see. Another one I think it'll be interesting to hear your take on is, particularly because Yuma is in the room, and we might have a couple others, people who own professional studios that they work out from their home, or people that run studios across the world. How have you seen the live streaming thing move into a sort of business model where, okay, Guillermo may be on, who's come on as a sort of live streaming tech professional of ours. How does that work from a sort of business standpoint? Clients, services. I have a recording studio. How does that relate to maybe a live streaming studio, if you want to talk on those two things? So let's look at attracting creators first. What kinds of creators do you see moving into this space that maybe are not there now in the next 6 to 12 months?
I am seeing what I call the second wave of musicians on. I focus mostly on Twitch, but you can make the same argument for Facebook or anything really.
Sure.
The first wave was amateurs, hobbyists, and people who were what I call DIY musicians. Probably had, a few singles or even an album recorded, something out on Spotify. Maybe they play locally. So that was kind of like the two levels, right? People who were just screwing around in their houses and having fun, and the people who are taking the next step and being a DIY musician, right?
Can I ask
that was
you a
the
question?
First wave.
The first wave began 5 years ago, 5 months ago. How are you defining the
I would
chronology
say,
of the first wave?
So I started looking at Twitch, music on Twitch in 2016. And there had been a creative category for a while, and then it became specifically music. People had been on there for a couple of years already. So I would say 2014 were probably the earliest stages of music on Twitch. 2015, a little more serious, and ever since then it's been growing. What I'm seeing now since the pandemic is that all these artists, have time on their hands and live streaming's all over the news. So they're giving it a go. So it's the next level. So it's super established artists, right March to April into early May, it was everybody, just going on and not thinking about clearing rights and just playing for their fans and, doing what music does best, which is trying to keep people, mentally. Well, and just, trying to keep themselves mentally stable during a crazy pandemic and trying to keep fans mentally stable and doing fundraisers, which is what music does really well during times of crisis, is fundraisers. So it was like the big artists were sort of doing that. And they were doing it on the general platforms. And now I'm seeing them kind of stick more to ticketed live streams and being a little more careful about where they're going to do a live stream. Some of them are still doing it on a regular basis. I didn't expect all of them to, because honestly, it's not for everybody. Some artists are just introverts. They don't want to talk to people. It's totally fine. Live streaming is not for you. Do a ticketed live stream. And I'm seeing just a lot more of that DIY musician layer, not so much the hobbyist in your house playing piano, screwing around, but like that true DIY musician layer is like growing and growing and growing. And then definitely there's been some bigger sort of content creator hubs, you know, like Insomniac, for example,
Okay.
you
Gotcha.
know, Beatport, Amazon Music is programming a lot of stuff right now. There's a lot of these like aggregators.
Where do you see bands in town fitting into
so to
that? Is
speak.
that
Yeah, they're one of these aggregators for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting that, yeah. So you said something a second ago that I've been sort of wrestling with the last couple of weeks, because I feel like a lot of the people, and again, our first two streams were on Twitch, and then we moved sort of over to YouNow just because it's just easier for us right now, and it's just more fluid, and also I think the ecosystem matches a little bit more maybe the energy of what we do. That said, you know, I've spent a lot more time on YouNow the last 5 months than Twitch, but I would say that the average person that I'm interacting with on YouNow that's done something and that we bring on to sort of talk about, tell us about your music, how did you get started? I don't know if they're using the word introvert exactly, but a lot of the things that they're saying is not, I'm a natural performer, I love being on stage, I'm an extrovert by nature, and I couldn't help but doing this. They're almost saying subtly, they're saying the flip. They're saying, I've never done this before. I never thought I could do this. I was initially shy or nervous about X or Y or Z, playing an instrument, being in front of people, entertaining for 4 hours at a time. And they've sort of moved into this space despite, I would almost say not even despite of it, but there's this sort of, I guess what I'm getting at is to be sort of a devil's advocate to your comment about, you know, this is not a space for introverts. I wonder if it opens up a different kind of extrovert or a different kind of sort of entertainment facilitator type person that isn't the, I'm going to take over this whole stadium, and is a little bit more, I can run this 30-person room for a few hours and really make it work. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, possibly. When I say introvert, I'm thinking of, you know, people like Tom York, you know,
Sure.
not necessarily an A-lister like that, but an artist like that, that is really more of a studio rat, you know, and probably if he could never tour again, would never tour again.
Right. But
You know,
I've seen
there's just,
Radiohead play live, and
there's
they're
some artists that are just like that.
amazing. But sure,
Yeah,
I see
they're
what you're saying.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's sort of,
But
it
they
sort of
definitely
comes
have
from a
fatigue
more
when they,
introvert place. I see what you're saying. So it can work, I think, either way.
yeah.
I think that's one of the things that I've been toying with in my own mind, and I just kind of wanted to get your take on it, that like there might be people who could do quite well in the live streaming environment that may not necessarily gravitate to the live stage ever. Another example, I've heard people say, I would never want to transition into live shows necessarily. I like this. This is comfortable for me. This is good. And it's a certain bandwidth that they've sort of hit that isn't the same as a stage. And maybe it doesn't, maybe it's almost, I don't know if the analogy works or not, but if you compare stage acting to TV acting, if you go on stage and act, you really have to project, and it's great and it's phenomenal and people are very talented. If you take that technique and put it in front of a TV set, it blows up. It doesn't work. It's too much. You have to bring everything much more sort of in and subtle and contained. So I wonder if there's kind of like, there's a different kind of performance mode that works very nicely and matches more of that sort of, I don't know if introvert's the right word, but a different kind of personality that might thrive in live streaming that wouldn't necessarily do the same in stage. I don't know if you've seen that, just because you've seen a lot of different shades of artists and people up and down the food chain.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, the artists, at least the ones that I know that are on Twitch and are in what I put in the DIY musician category, meaning that, you know, they have branding, they have socials that they work, and they probably played out before the pandemic hit, and they've got a couple of records out, like the DIY musician, right? Who's like
they've
trying to like build
passed
something.
that certain threshold of,
I don't know any of them who who don't want to play live and would do this instead. You know, for them, it's a different show for sure. You know, what they do on their live stream is different from what they do on stage. When they're on stage, they got a band behind them, they got a light show, you know, their fans are in front of them. It's a whole different thing. And I don't think it needs to match what you do on your live stream. I think it's a difference between hanging out on an everyday basis with an artist you love and then seeing them be a rock star, right? And being reminded of like the power of that sort of rock star, you know, I don't know, image, right?
And energy,
so
and
sort of
format.
seeing like the person, yeah, it's like seeing them really stretch their legs and perform is really different than just hanging out with them every day. And it is different and special.
So 7,000, you had an interesting comment here. I would agree with that for sure. I'm assuming that what you were agreeing with was that there's this sort of difference in the energy. And you also mentioned that you've adjusted your set dramatically on YouNow compared to playing at bars. That's kind of interesting. Maybe you can chime in a little bit on how you've done that. Or again, if you guys have questions for Karen, I would love to try and weave them in or field them in some way. T Fresh, I have a question. What do you do? Not sure. Type your question again.
Sing.
What do you do for? What do you mean by that? I'm not sure what you're. So just type it again for us so that it's a little more clear. Energy level wise.
Yeah, no, 7,000 saying a little. That's energy level. Yeah. Well, it's also like when you're doing, you know, 3 to 5 hours set on live streaming, it's hard to keep that energy level out of 4 to 5 anyway.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Yeah, I can see how it's a little more, you know,
you
3
probably
to 4.
can't go 4 hours on stage at that level. Very few artists can do that.
Yeah, it's even when you take breaks in between songs to talk to people, like that's still, you know, it's a lot. I mean, a lot of streamers when they're done, they're wiped out and they're starving.
Right.
You know.
Anybody gonna want to throw an amen into that? Does anybody feel completely fill in the blank when you've done a 3, 4, 5 hour stream? How does that feel at the end of that? T Fresh, I think your question at its heart is, when you're streaming as a vocalist or a singer, what are some thoughts that you have on the best way to do that successfully, to communicate well, to sort of do that well? What do you think,
you're asking
Karen?
me?
Yeah.
I don't know. See, I always come at everything in my career from an artist management standpoint. So I always go back to, what does the artist want to do? Even now when I advise labels and managers and promoters, what should we do? I'm like, I don't know. What does the artist want to do? Like, what feels natural to you? You know, because this is really a format where you get to decide what your stream is all about. You don't have to be crazy high energy person just because the other streamer is a crazy high energy person. You just need to be authentic, you know, and do what's natural to you and communicate with your audience. And if they vibe with you, they vibe with you and they'll come back. And if they don't, they don't. But it's you can't not be authentic. So I always come back to what feels good to you guys. You know, start there and then make some compromises and adjustment for the sake of your audience, and then weave some things in that you can try. And
Great.
I know I don't really think there's necessarily
I want to try an exercise. This may work, this may not work, but that's kind of the spirit of the whole stream we've had for the last 5 months. What I'd like for you guys to do, we have a lot of great creators and singers and artists and people on here. So to take Karen's comments a little more literally, okay, think about the things that you love to do, maybe as they relate to a live stream. For example, I don't know, I love to draw, or I love to be able to build a community, or I love to blah, 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 blah. If you guys can put those in the comments, then maybe Karen and we can sort of chime in on, okay, well, if you love that, maybe you could blah, right? Because for me, what's interesting also about live streaming is that, you know, it seems intrinsically obvious you'd want the artist to do what they like doing, but there's probably experiences every artist has where they're like, well, I don't like, you know, blah, 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 but I do that because that's a part of my career. if you do shit on a live stream that you don't like doing, it's super fucking obvious. It's super fucking obvious. So it just doesn't work.
And it's hard to keep doing it over time.
And it's hard to keep doing it. It doesn't sustain 4 hours a day, every day, right? So what are the things that you guys like to do?
Right. I mean,
Nintendo gamer, you like to sing. Great. Honest Witness, thank you for bringing your fans over. Right on, right on. So maybe, again, throw out for you guys. And by the way, T-Fresh, I'm sorry that you're pushing past a fever right now, but I hope you feel better. And Wu-Tang, glad you're hydrating. Cheers to that. So if you guys have thoughts on, okay, this is what I'd like to try to weave into my live stream, but I don't know how to do it. Karen's worked with a lot of folks and solved that for a lot of different people. I think it would be cool to kind of solve some things you guys are trying to push. And one last thing I'm gonna mention here is kind of a almost like a frame for Karen's insights. I think a lot of people can talk about sort of first stage best practices for live streaming, right? You should be engaging, you should be blog, you should be blog. Okay, everyone's pretty much read that and understands those. I think Karen could probably talk on sort of second stage, second level best practices, things that not a lot of people understand, not a lot of people have figured out or cracked the code for. So ask those juicy questions that only someone that really knows this shit can really answer, because it's really an amazing opportunity that we have here. And just FYI, we've got half an hour. I know all of us, I think all three of us have a hard stop at quarter after. So 7,000. One challenge is we love doing original music. It's hard to do that for 4 hours on a stream. What do you think, Karen?
True. And it's hard to do a ton of originals in general because people want to hear songs they know. And unless they are already your fans, they're not going to request your originals because they don't know them. And this is sort of the tough thing, I think, for a lot of artists on Twitch. You need a really big song list, and it's got to be a lot of covers, because that's the easiest way for people to find a way into you. And you don't need to do the covers exactly the way that the song is done. It's people are totally cool hearing it the way you do it. And actually, new takes on originals is really popular. I'm sorry, new takes on covers are really, really popular. But I will say, Marina V, who I work with, she's my client, I produce her stream. She's probably 80% originals and 20% covers, because her fans show up and her fans know her catalog, and that's what they request.
And how long has she been an artist, and how long has she been streaming?
She's got 10 records out.
Okay, that's relevant.
Yeah, she's not a kid.
She's a catalog artist.
And she's got, you know, she's crowdfunded every single one of her records. She's toured all over the world. Like she's one of these true like DIY musicians, right? Who's been like doing it for a long time. And her fans show up and they request songs from 8 albums ago, right? So that's rare. And when new people come in, I make her do a cover. When we get rated, I make her do a cover. Like I control, she also controls, but I actually also control her song queue. This is the cool thing about Twitch is people actually build for it. So there's this really great service called Streamer Song List that is amazing at managing your song queue and managing your requests. So whenever we get a raid, I always bump a couple of her best covers to the top of the queue, and I make her do those, because that's the way people are going to find a way in. They don't know her original songs. Those aren't meaningful to them, you know. But if she does her cover of, you know, I Want It That Way, which is a great cover, or Ring of Fire, which is a great, insanely good cover, you know, people are like, oh my God, who is this girl? You know, and then they'll stick around for the originals and get to know the community. But, you know, helping people find a way in is extremely important. And you're not familiar to them, so you've got to find something that is familiar to them. And it needs to feel also like a community. You're welcome here. We're vibing off each other. This is really fun. And by the way, here's a song you know. You know? So
I have another question from Goda. Goda, it's good to see you. But just as sort of a final spin on that topic, it almost sounds like, I mean, in the old model, old meaning about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you had an album and you had a single. And the singles job was to crack the album open for a lot of people and be that reason to buy the album and reason to invest in the band and take the time to learn the rest of what they do. And so now it's almost like those covers are playing the role of the radio single. It's sort of, okay, I'll stick around. I know this song. This makes sense to me. This is good. I like their vibe. And then it sort of earns your way, or it earns the audience's sort of attention. The covers maybe sort of play that role.
Yeah.
Would you say that's okay? So you can think of it that way. It's almost like you
Yeah,
may
for
want
sure.
to put
And
a
then
record out.
and then you start
Sorry,
weaving in your you start weaving in your originals, and then people start requesting your originals.
Right.
And then what ends up happening, at least on Twitch, is other artists start covering your originals. If you're a popular Twitch artist, it's not uncommon that another artist would be like, that's a great song they wrote. I'm going to do my version. And like, there's no hate with that. Like, it's really, really fun and cool to see that happen. Like, that's true community dynamics at play. But my advice to artists is, don't think that people aren't interested in you because they want to hear a cover. They just want to hear something familiar, and they want to hear a song that they like, you know. And you don't have to do every cover that's requested, although there is a thing on Twitch called a live learn, which is when you go, okay, fine, I'm down. I don't know the song, but let me pull up the YouTube video and get some tablature, and I'll walk my way through this. And it's kind of fun to see someone put a song together too. Like, that's also entertainment. And then, like, for Marina, she'll never do that because she's like, that's not how her creative process works, and she's not going to do that. But for people who do live learns, like, it's really fun to watch that, you know, come together. And there is zero expectation that it's going to be perfect.
Can I ask
There's expectation that you try.
Can I ask one side question about covers, because it actually came up with 7,000, and then Goda, I promise I'll get to your question. What about selection of covers?
Yeah.
So you know, I mean, there's certain bands that have a certain instrumentation and have a certain range of their singing voice, and they have a certain energy and vibe to their. How do you ever have thoughts on sort of, here would be the covers that would really be in your sweet spot, and here are the ones that might not, unless you really flip them and bend them around and make them sort of the inverse of what they are in the original? Do you have thoughts on, like, great, have some recipe of covers and non-covers, but also which ones, what are things you think about or tell people to think about when they're picking covers?
Definitely pick covers that come naturally to you. But I advise them to go watch other Twitch streamers and see what songs they're covering, because those are probably the requests that you're going to get. They were just some songs that seem to be popular on Twitch. And there are some songs that kind of go through cycles, like Zombie by the Cranberries was really, really big for a while. Fast Car by Tracy Chapman suddenly caught fire, and people wanted to hear a fast car. And then there's, you know, Thank You Next was super big for a while. So it's like, it's those sort of earworm current songs, right, that people want to hear, that's like, oh, this is the new hot track and I want to cover this. And like Taylor Swift's album is very, you know, folky and very easy for singer-songwriters to do. So a lot of her songs are popular right now on Twitch. So it's either that or it's like throwback 90s stuff, right? And throwback 80s almost too. Like, this was from my high school. This was a song that was big in high school. And it's a great song, and it totally holds up, you know? It's that kind of stuff. But try to just do songs that, you make a really good point, good for your voice, you know, good for your style of playing, or you have a certain angle on it. But definitely watch other streamers. And if they use Streamer Song List, you can go to streamersonglist.com, go to their page, and click on songs, so you see all their songs, and you can organize them by most often played. So that's a little hack for figuring out what is most requested from, rather than sitting there for hours and hours and taking notes on a notepad, which is insane. You can go to Streamer Song List for these artists that you feel are similar to you, like the kind of thing that you would do, and go to their streamersonglist.com, click on songs, reorder the listing by most played. And that's your list of what people are going to be requesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
But it's good to have those, because, you know, people will literally blow into your chat, request a song, and if you don't play that song, they're out. You know what I'm saying? So, and some of those requests are like arcane and nobody would ever do them. But it's good. It's just good to have, you know, 30, 40 covers on hand that you know are popular on whatever. They're probably different on YouNow, but you can actually track it when you're on Twitch to see what's popular. Because
Yep.
you're going to get asked. You're going to get asked to play, you know, Fix You by Coldplay. That was super big for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe the 80-20 version of that is go on to, what is it? What's the website again that you mentioned?
Streamer song list.
So thank you. Streamersonglist.com.
Yeah. There is no general, there is no, you have to go to each artist's page on Streamer Song List. There,
Okay.
I don't know
There's no
of any general
master,
stats that they keep
here
track
are
of.
the total amounts.
No.
Well, you could, okay, so the 80-20 version
Which
could
is why
be,
I'm saying go find artists that are like you.
Totally. You go onto some artists that are like you in some way, you find out what their top songs are, and then if you see 20, you pick the 2 or 3 or 4 that you have an affinity towards, you think you could do something with. In other words, the only thing that bothers me a little bit about this sort of the cover thing is that statistically speaking, you know, if you have 100 songs that you might cover, there's probably 5 or 10 of them that really you have a cool relationship with musically, and the rest of them are just, they're songs you could cover, but not necessarily in a way that people go, wow, like I really see the song, hear the song in a different way. So I think it's about picking songs where there's some chemistry, let's call it, between the song and the artist. So Goda, your question about maybe creating, it's almost like, I think the concept he has is, so Goda's has a background in production, a music producer, and lives in Mexico City, and is maybe interested in a stream about production tips, particularly for Latin America, right? So it's probably in Spanish, I'm assuming, and maybe intrinsic to, you know, maybe Miami, Mexico City, Buenos Aires, etc. So what would you recommend, some things that he could talk about or think about to get that stream to work well? And I'm seeing your image is back again. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I would just really caution when it comes to music production streams that it's not going to be interesting to a lot of people. Yeah. You know, it's really only interesting if you're interested in music production. But the average viewer on Twitch is looking to be entertained and to hang out. So unless you're a super entertaining teacher of music production, you know, you're probably you're definitely narrowing your audience in that sense. So you have to sort of like,
variety is super important. Looks like we got a little Wi-Fi problem. That's how you say Wi-Fi when you're in a Spanish-speaking country, right, Goda? Yep. I think that might be a refresh moment. Karen, if you can do a little refresh and then raise your hand. Wu-Tang, great comment. I think it would be great if there were more coders that were able to do things that were intrinsic to YouNow. Great point. Mark Ribbolette, yes. It's good to find lots of niches and different communities within your own streaming platform. Sure. Yeah, it's almost like these different sort of tentacles that go out in different places, right? What's up, Essence? Thanks for bringing your people over. Karen, we just lost her because of the Wi-Fi, but I think she'll be back on momentarily. Karen, when you pop back on, thank you, Shay. Thanks for bringing some people over, appreciate it. We're doing a kind of a sit down with Karen Allen about streaming, about artist development. I'm barely broadcast good. I can try. By the way, Nintendo, thank you for hanging with us. I think you might be new here. I don't know if I've seen you before. We're doing interviews. This is kind of an interview segment of our stream, but we're absolutely down to have you come on as an artist in the future. We have certain days where it's kind of like more of an artist showcase, play some songs kind of jam. So absolutely, you can drop your info in our Discord and just kind of let us know what you're thinking about doing. Karen, I'm sorry we lost you. Hopefully, there you are. Like production stream. Good to have you back. And we're back.
Hey.
Hey.
Very buggy today.
Buggy stream today, y'all.
Yeah, I got 10 megs up, so it ain't me.
Sometimes, sometimes it's like, it's like waves on the ocean. Sometimes it's just like, so, you made a good point that like, and we noticed this incidentally early on. We did a couple of streams with Emma and James, Emma McGann, and some of them were more big picture and some of them were more like, this is how you set up your lighting and your audio and your microphones. And then we had Guillermo Subaste on, who's awesome. And those were a little more sort of, okay, this is how you get your, live stream to sound more like studio level audio. And those are good. But I think what I've learned over a period of time is like, when we have someone apart on, who's a great duo, husband and wife duo, by the way, and they're super talented. When we have them on and we say, what are you guys doing with your tech setup, right? Then it's a more interesting conversation basically about the same thing, but now it's got cool visuals. We can see the Behringer, we can see the microphone, they could do a demo. So it's almost like I realized even a month ago doing this a handful of times, like it needs to be show, don't tell. And so go to one of the things that I started to think about, and I told this to 7000 and I told it to Keith Pelusa when he was on the second time. How can we do this in a way where it's the same conversation, not too heady, not too techy, but also kind of like a little more show, don't tell, so that people that might be new to that topic can still be like, oh, that's a pretty badass piece of gear. What is that? Oh, that's a mixer. Interesting, right? So there's some breadth of like wherever you're coming in to the conversation, you can be like, oh, this is maybe a couple notches above what I'm used to talking about, but I can still sort of follow along and I can watch. So maybe it's about sort of having a couple of different entry points and not just the sort of, if you can keep up with what an SM57 is, then you're in the game. And if not, like,
for sure,
out of luck.
Yeah, and to be clear, look, my book is 80% tech tutorial.
It is true.
Yeah, I actually give you very specific recommendations on this is a good mic. Here are 3 others that are at different price points. This is a really good USB audio interface. Have you considered lighting it? Because here are some options for background and foreground. And, here's how you're going to connect it all to your OBS and make it sound good. And, it is 80% tech tutorial because that's the book I wanted to write. I really wanted to teach people how to produce a stream because you have to produce it every time you go live. There's no one, people, often want to pay me to set up their channel. And I'm like, I can only do so much. Like I can set up your alerts, I can do your layout, I can do your panels, but you have to go live every single time. So you have to learn this anyway. I have to teach you what I'm doing. I'm not like a social media manager where you can just like hand it off to someone. This. Yeah, here's $3 to $5 grand a month, off you go, and let me know how it goes. And I'll send you some pictures from my life, and you figure out how to air. No, you have to show up and do it. Like you have to use your computer with your OBS with your gear, and
let me ask you something.
Gig.
You've mentioned a number of different artists that are essentially 2 people. Many of them are couples, man, woman, whatever.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's this natural sort of division of labor. Like I think about Emma and James, and it's like I wonder if there's, in other words, is having 2 people, 7000 another good example maybe. Is there some benefit to having like sort of a 2-person artist or a 2-person thing, or having somebody that maybe it isn't you that comes in and does it, or some X person, but it's someone that sort of rides along and there's some division of the creative thing? Have you seen that work, or do you think that's just kind of not necessary? Or
I think streaming ends up being a lot more work than people realize, and it does help to have 2 people, or 3 people. Like Halo Scene is 4 people, and they're actually doing really well on YouTube right now, and they're they're a top partner, and they're doing great. I know that Fantastic Plastic, so I talk a lot about it in my book.
Yes.
Husband and wife duo, and she makes the their costumes, you know, and then they've got actually a third person that they work with who does all of their video and always has done all of their video visual. So all the things you see going on in the background, all of the green screen you see on their clothes, like that person is the person who does all that. So they actually have 3 people working on that stream, because that's been their sort of creative unit from the very beginning for everything they've done, for their videos, for their album covers, for their merch, everything. You know, that's totally their team is the 2 artists and, you know, the graphic expert. And then there's people like Megan Lenius, who I also work with. She's totally self-contained and she just loves all the tech stuff, you know, and she's just kind of figured out everything for herself. But every single one of these bigger streamers has, on Twitch, we call them moderators. And the mods help control the chat while the streamer is doing what they're doing. And they also help control the request list, because streamer song list is really great, but it's also a very manual process. Matching a donation to a request is a manual process. You know, if there's more than one request for one song, that's a manual process. There's a lot of things that aren't necessarily automated, even though it's a great tool. So it just helps to have like a team of people. And, you know, bigger streamers will have like 10 to 20 mods, you know, because it's not their job, right? They're not committing to show up every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m.
Like, I can mod.
Totally. Yeah. So you generally have, you know, mods. And if you know you're going to be front page, like you'll reach out to your mods ahead of time and say, guys, can you make sure to be here on this day? Because we're going to have front page and we're going to have a lot of people in here and I could use some help. And, you know, but yeah, it does take a village a little bit to do it. Although you can certainly do a lot of this completely on your own, and a lot of artists do. It just super helps to have more than one person, you know. And I always say, like, there's how you promote the stream before you go live. There's what you do with the video that you've made, you know, chopping that down and putting it out on your socials is a whole other thing, you know. And that's how you get people interested in coming to your Twitch. Like, you don't necessarily exist in a vacuum, you know. If you have 1,000 followers on Instagram, then let's start putting some Twitch content on Instagram, so they'll come over. Let's start pulling out those funny moments. Let's start pulling out those funny chat comments and making that your post. Like, you really can take your stream and fill your content calendar, you know, with that for your social media, and that's a whole job in itself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
I want to give a giant hashtag to Tori right here, because I feel like she and I have come along for this ride since the beginning, and this has been a really fun and rewarding and amazing process because of that blend. And so a couple of people were mentioning it as sort of a almost an example, but like 100%, I feel like, you know, this has been a team effort from the beginning. I'm usually the dude that's on the screen, but it's hard to put into words how important I think Tori has been for this. And I really want to give you huge props. And I know everyone on the stream that's regular at all knows that she kicks ass. So I want you guys to give Tori some love right now and thank her for how amazing she is, because all of the shit, thank you, like mad love right now. All of the stuff that Karen talks about, right, that's like involved in this, Tori helps me do. I mean, whether it's getting the emails together for sending you guys out who's going to be coming in so you guys can prepare and do some homework and know what the hell's coming up, the art and the photo, making sure that the vibe is happening in the room, because half the time I'm completely just going off the energy of what's happening with the guest we have, making sure everything's sort of flowing. Like, Tori, you're absolutely amazing. I don't have enough words for you, and I appreciate you a lot. So thank you. And those of you that are here, like, please understand that, again, it's all a riff off of what Karen just said, that like, it takes a village and all the other phrases that go along with that. Like, there's so much shit that's involved behind the scenes to make this sort of snap together every day, every week, whatever. And thank you, Tori, for this would be impossible I mean, I can't imagine trying to do this as one person. So to your point, I can't imagine if you and I met at a music convention, God forbid, at some place where we got to, you know, stand 6 feet apart and wear a fucking mask. And you said, hey, P, I think it'd be great. You know, you play guitar, you do this and that. And why don't you go? I would do it for 2 weeks and go, fuck that. There's just too much.
Do you see why I couldn't write this book for established artists? They do not have this kind of time. DIY musicians do, and they'll do really well with it, you know, and they are the ones who have time to have time to do these insanely long streams, B, have time to do all the things they need to do in between it, and actually are at the beginning of their career and really want to build a fan base and engage with them. Major artists don't have time. They just don't have time for this.
Can I translate what you just said? And you can tell me if this is an accurate translation.
Sure.
That live streaming as a platform, as a medium, is a much more revolutionary and powerful tool for an indie/DIY artist than an established artist.
Only because I think it's for both, but I think only because DIY artists have the time to put into it.
All things being equal,
yeah,
an indie artist can revolutionize their career within 12 months live streaming.
Yes.
An established artist, it's almost like what Instagram was 10 years ago. It helps. You ought to do it. It does take time. It takes some investment. In order for you to compete, it might be good for you,
right,
but it's not going to change the game the way someone that's moving from I can't pay my bills for music to I can pay my bills for music.
Right.
That's the live streaming revolution in a nutshell.
Right.
I'm oversimplifying deliberately, but I want to hear
in established artists, they simply have more ways of, you know, building huge fan bases overnight, so to speak, and making money.
Compete with each other, and live stream's only one of them, so it's not as
they have a lot more resources to grow them, you know, without having to meet each fan one by one, which is what you're doing in your live streaming. So it's just about capacity. I have seen mid-level rock stars do really well on Twitch, and they generally spend time on Twitch. They show up, you know, at least once, twice a week. Yeah. And they talk to their fans and they open up their life a little bit and they do really well. But these are the kind of extroverty artists, you know? And look, if you're a big established artist, I don't think you need to be on Twitch every week. I think you can do a stream once or twice and it can be meaningful. Once or twice a month and make it meaningful. I think you can roll that up into a larger ticketed event. I don't think you need to be there as often as a DIY artist does, for sure. Yep. It's just a different way of approaching it. I just think it's so powerful. It's the most powerful tool I've ever seen for DIY artists, for sure.
Thank you, Valkyrie.
It's a huge statement.
For becoming a fan of Twitch for musicians.
Oh, thank you.
For bringing your people over.
Yeah, Tori's right. They would have different goals too. Tori's totally right.
And 7,000's made about a dozen comments that all point to something else too, which is just the enormous efficiency of being able to just click, perform. You don't have to get in a van. You don't have to, like, yes, there's some tech to make sure it works, but like, oh my God, it's night and day. I have one sort of question I wanted to ask you that I thought would be great to hear your thoughts on. Actually, I have two more questions in my own mind, but if you guys have anything that you throw out there at the moment, we have 5 more minutes. So ask away. So one question I have is, it's kind of a good thing and a bad thing in a way as a journalist and someone that's trying to learn about this space, that frankly, there's not a lot of people who know a lot about this. Sherry, you, I would say Emma's in that group. There's certain people that know a shit ton, and then a lot of people that are all trying to figure it out. Who would you say are some other people that you would consider knowledgeable in their field? Maybe they've written something, maybe they run a company, maybe they blah, blah, blah. Maybe they're an artist. Who are people that know their shit that are worth listening to right now?
In general or with live streaming?
With live streaming.
With live streaming. You know, it's so new, and I've got the advantage of just being so far ahead of everybody else. So it's hard to see.
Ahead, for sure.
I mean, Sherry's good from an industry standpoint. She's good, you know, in terms of what are the 20 ticketed services and how do they differ? You know, she's good, and she's good because she talks to a lot of different people too, which is awesome.
Yep.
But I mean, sorry to say it, but aside from me, I don't know who else is really.
I don't either.
Who's really well versed and is not just saying the same things I'm saying, and frankly, they probably learned it from me, which is totally fair. But the other people you can learn from is the streamers. Go watch the popular streamers and study them.
That was my second question. So
study them.
Who is the let's get a top 10.
Yeah.
Ish. Who are the streamers, right? That not just, oh, they're huge. Oh, they had a blah metric. But like, who are the streamers that understand streaming, that fucking get it? Who are? Can you rattle off 10 for us that you love?
Yeah,
that we could go do our homework?
Yeah, I can, and I'll put them in the chat too.
Worth the stream, by the way. Just that list, totally worth the stream.
So Emma McGann, who you all know, and she's on YouNow and Twitch. But go watch her on Twitch for sure. Yeah. This will all be Twitch people.
Okay.
And Twitch doesn't use @ for your username. It's just your username. So I'm going to put the / basically, because it's twitch.tv / whatever. Totally. I mean, the gold standard, sorry, lost my chat. The gold standard for all of this, which is who I studied first, is a couple streams. Totally. They are a couple who streams. Totally. And they regularly hit 1,000 viewers. Concurrent means they're probably doing 15 to 20 uniques over their 4 to 5 hour stream. And it's not front page. They're not getting any help from Twitch. This is literally what they've organically grown over the past 5 years. And they've always kind of been at the top. And
they're an anomaly. They're way on the top.
Not everybody's this big. Yeah, they're at the top, but they've definitely, I've talked to them a lot, and they were very methodical about how they built everything.
What do you mean by methodical? Iterative, testing, try this, no, let's do it this way?
They were very methodical in the sense of, let's try something, does this work or not? Let's do this, let's not do that. Let's try this next thing. What do our fans want us to do? What do our viewers want us to do? Who else is doing something? They were very like A/B testy, and they treated it not like a wild experiment, but like, okay, let's try to really build something. If we're really going to build something,
like an advertising agency would run a digital campaign. Like, does this work? They love this. Let's do it that way.
Yes.
Very methodical.
Yes. And when you go to their page, they're branded. Everything is on brand. She does all the art. All their merch lines up with their whole aesthetic.
2-minute warning. Just letting you know, and everybody else too.
Yeah, every single one of their singles is, on track. So
and they're amazing musically and in every other way. I love their energy. Who else would you recommend?
Megan Lenius, who I work with. Of course. Raquel is awesome. I love her. Definitely hit up the Fantastic Plastics. If I could spell that. Fantastic Plastics. I don't think it's that. I think it's just Fantastic Plastics. Okay. Check out my girl Marina V Music, and you'll see how I run her streams. Who else is really good? I really like Autopilot. He's interesting. I really like Etc. Kid. He's really interesting. You want to see someone who has jumped from just starting in March to partner, which is usually takes a year or two to get partner. Anel.
Tori, could you screenshot this, please?
Anel she streams 4 to 5 hours a day every single day. And so she's really putting the time in. And that's how she's gotten so big. And she's pretty, and she sings great, and she loves her audience, and she has a ton of covers. Like, every little thing's getting ticked off with her.
Yep.
So she's really interesting to watch. I really like this girl, Sarah Coponut, because she does classical music. So she'll play like an 8 or 9 minute piece, and then she'll talk to her fans and so forth. And so it's interesting because there's not many people who can actually pull off classical music doing this, right? So I really like Sarah Coponut. It's going off the top of my head.
Love you guys. Here. Thank you so much for being here.
Gosh, there's so many more, but that's a really good.
That's a great list.
Cross section of people.
That's awesome.
But yeah, you know what? Just go on Twitch.
Yeah.
Here also.
Thank you.
Here's the headline. It's a community. So if you're going to be an artist who is going to do this, you need to be a part of the community that you're joining. So you need to go watch other artists. You need to be a part of their community. You need to not promote yourself. No handing out flyers at someone else's show. That's some bullshit. You know, like don't do that. But go and be a genuine part of
No
their
party fouls.
thing. Right. You know, raid them, raid other people, you know, show some support, subscribe to their channels, like do the things you would do. I liken it to, look, if you were brand new into town and a musician and you wanted to start getting known in that town, you would go to the clubs, you would check out the clubs you like, you would check out the bands you like, and then you would go befriend those bands. Hey, I'm new in town, I do this, da, 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 you know, and you would get to know the bookers for the clubs. And it's exactly the same thing. You would go be a part of the community that you want to grow in, and it is no different with live streaming.
Listen, thank you so much. I started off the stream saying something. I'm going to end it saying this was a dream come true. This was one of the things that I wanted to be able to do here, was just have stupid smart people on here so that people that are on this, that are doing, these are people that get this and get what YouNow is, right? But you're hovering in all these other spaces and you can come in and go, yo, this is what I'm seeing. And not just your insight and background and experience and all and perspective and all those things, but you have a genuine willingness to, here's all the info. Here, let me give it to you.
Right.
And in the music industry, as a general rule, regardless of what the topic is, that's generally not something to be taken for granted, certainly not something to be assumed. So I appreciate that you've always been very forthcoming. Your articles are amazing. Yeah. Twitch for Musicians is amazing. Your streams have been great. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate your time. I know you got to bounce as well. Yeah. So perhaps we can do this again. If there's anything we can ever do to follow up, thank you so much, Karen.
Yeah, my pleasure. Guys, if anybody wants to has more questions, hit me on Twitter. I'm pretty active on Twitter. And I'm on my Facebook too. So if you have any questions, just hit me there, and I'm always happy to answer.
Right on. We'll see you soon. I'm gonna pull you off just so you can do your thing.
All right.
See you, Karen.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, love those dream come true streams, man. That's the shit. What would your dream come true streams be? If thank you, Wu-Tang. I like Wu-Tang. I like Kiki. Sometimes I flip between the two. Man, that was so good. So I'm glad that you guys were here as well. And actually, now that I'm realizing it, it's like that's what makes that work. If it was just me and Karen and Tori and we're just hanging, it's like, okay, that would be mind-blowing. But what's cool is wondering like what all you guys are doing right now up here. Like, oh shit, that's crazy. I pulled this. I never thought about it this way. Like, that's so cool to me that you guys are in here kind of chopping it up with us and asking questions and like, I don't know, there's some weird sort of way that I can sort of feel the room. I don't know if that makes sense or if that sounds creepy. Hopefully it sounds creepy. But love what happened today, man. And I hope I did a good job with like sort of managing the sort of the input and the output, because that was a challenging one for me, because it was like, dude, when I talk to Karen, I have to like, just to keep up with her, I have to just, you know, it's like, put your thinking caps on just to keep up with her. And then I've got the whole other thing happening. So I think that was good. I think we covered a lot of your questions and stuff. Super stoked that you guys were here. Oh, thank you so much, Tori. Yeah, you are. Well said. Oh, I'll mention one other thing that's sort of right on the edge of happening. And as Tori knows, my MO as a general rule in business or consulting or this fucking live stream thing that we never quite know exactly what we're doing, and that's how we like it. I like to push into things that may or may not work. I like to push into things that if they don't work, we'll learn something significant and then we'll pivot into whatever version of it is going to work. So I've been thinking about sort of monthly, like a monthly theme for September, and maybe some things around fall and what would be cool and what sort of fits what we tend to do here. And what there seems to be a bit of a taste for among the community and within YouNow. And I want to try something. We'll probably do a soft launch of this. And I think, Tori, this might be news for you. Love you. We'll see you soon, T. Thank you so much. And I'll keep you posted if I decide on something that may affect you this week. But I know you're totally good. No. Go. So I'm thinking about a theme for September that would encourage everyone in this community, our extended people, the people that are regular here, the people that are just kind of popping in, that want to learn about streaming, that want to learn about music, that want to advance something that they're doing, to put out what essentially amounts to like a 2-week goal. The point of which is not necessarily to accomplish the goal and be successful, but just to put something out there that's gonna move you forward, that's gonna challenge you. I've never heard your professional music background. We will totally wrap back around to that. About once every other stream, people ask me that, so we'll have a stream where it's like, what the fuck is Pete's background? We'll have a stream for that, I promise. It's just kind of, I have to go as well in 8 minutes, and I want to sort of get this idea out, but appreciate your interest, and we'll totally do that. I want to do something that helps people sort of put something on the board. Like I want to be able to do X within the next couple of weeks, whether it's in music or streaming or both, and have people kind of come in, say, you know, I'd love to be able to blah, 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 blah. I'm not necessarily sure how to do it, and have the group go, yo, this is what I've learned. This is what somebody told me. Here's a website. Here's a resource. Here's something I've heard doesn't work. This worked last year, but I'm not sure. I want people to sort of chime in and support whatever it is that somebody else is trying to do. And again, the exercise is not, oh my God, I'm putting this out there, and if I don't hit it, like it's going to be this sort of like thing where everybody knows I didn't hit it. The point is not to like actually get the touchdown. The point is to get as many yards forward as possible, because then you're running and you're getting better at running, and you're getting better at plays, and you're getting better at passes, and you're getting better at pushing the ball forward. And that's momentum and confidence and flow that you're getting out of that process. Where you end up at the end of that 2 weeks doesn't matter. But also you've got literally a whole team behind you going, yo, try this, try this, try this. So I want to experiment with it. I probably want to try something teeny tiny tomorrow. Thursday is just a kind of off the record little test on it. I'll go ahead and commit to doing it tomorrow at 10 a.m. the normal time, 10 a.m. Pacific time. So like an hour and a half before right now. And what I want to do is just invite people to talk about short-term goals. Not, I want to be a fucking rock star in 5 years or whatever. I want something like by the end of the month, I want to be able to blah. I think it's better, and it's cooler, and it's more interesting, and it's more constructive if it's, and some of you guys are going to hate me for saying this, but I don't necessarily think it works as well if it's like, you know, I want to have X amount of fans, or I want to have, you know, a sub button or some shit like that. Not that those things aren't important, and not that they aren't relevant to what you guys are trying to do. But for the purposes of us being able to help you and do something, I like the idea of doing things that are intrinsically creative and business minded and smart and strategic, rather than just like hypey, let's get some fans on board, let's try and blah, 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 blah. I know that's a part of what streaming and online stuff is about. That's not, you don't need a stream necessarily. You don't need another stream to do that. This is a stream where people can get together virtually and thoughtfully listen to what someone's trying to do, and then support them, even if it's just morally, like, yo, dude, I know you can do that. I don't have a fucking idea how to do that, but I'm behind you. And then 2 weeks later, you pop back on and go, yo, this is what I did. This is what happened. These are the walls that I had to scale. I did this, this I wasn't able to do, and this is where I am. The end result of which I think is that everybody maybe gets a little bit more of a sense of humor about what it is they're trying to do, and realizes that it doesn't matter whether you hit it in the 2 weeks or not. It's, oh, you get sort of a taste for like literally being on the field, and then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to do that again. And then you realize you got some people behind you this time. And so you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again. And there are, in a 52-week period, there's, I don't know, 26 2-week bits in a year. So imagine that you did that 20 times over the course of 2021. So I think all of this is sort of setting up for how can this community start to do some very interesting things as a group, and move forward together as a sort of collective where everybody's got certain little superpowers and everybody's got little things that they're helping each other with. So that's kind of my long-winded idea. I think it could be fun, and if you guys want to check it out tomorrow and chat with us about things you're trying to figure out, if you have people that you know are working on goals or things they're trying to sort of move forward, again, it's specifically to music/streaming. So, and I would say music should be a part of it. Otherwise, it's not really our sweet spot necessarily. But I think if you're in some kind of the music space and you're trying to do something with streaming, I think it would be a good space for us to sort of help each other out. So cool to see everybody today. Yuma, dude, you're insane. Thank you very much for your likes. That was totally not necessary. Mostly it's just really, really good to see you. I know you've been busy. I know things have been building at the studio, and I can't wait to bring you guys on to talk about some of the cool shit you've been doing and are going to be doing. 7,000, you guys are amazing. 365 days out of the year. Appreciate you so much. Appreciate everything that you guys are doing. And Tori, I mean, I could continue to embarrass myself, but I think I've said enough. You're crazy, wonderful, and I appreciate you. Honest Witness, looking forward to learning more about you. Kim, you're probably smacking on some drums right now. Hopefully you're having a good time. Kiki, good to see you as always. You're so great. Love your energy here and your questions and your comments and your support. Skylar, good to see you. T Fresh, feel better. Drink your water. I'm out. Just about out. So keep drinking water, get lots of sleep. Hope you feel 100% very, very soon. And Karen, thank you so much again for your time. And if you guys have any thoughts on the sort of goal setting exercise, let me know. Again, I'm totally okay with it not necessarily being the thing that you guys want to do. And if that's true, we'll certainly learn quickly enough and we'll pivot into whatever else would be interesting. But I'd like to do something that's a little more concrete and that allows us to help each other out and work on little mini projects together. I think that would be fun. Thanks, Kiki. Appreciate. So love all of you guys. Friday is a holiday Friday for us. So enjoy your Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's going to be hot as fill in the blank here in LA. So go have fun. And we'll see you next week. Oh, one last little bitty on my last 60 seconds. Leslie Morgan is going to be here next Wednesday. Yeah. And she is Friday. I think. This is why Tori is here, to keep my head on straight. Next week, Leslie Morgan is a design professional. She's an expert in logos, how to get your live stream set up so that it looks well, overlays, color schemes, fonts, and she's awesome. She's super supportive. She's worked with a lot of artists over the years. She ran BMI's marketing department for like decades. She's a beast. She's going to be on the stream. And if you guys have a logo that you're working on, if you have something that you're trying to figure out in the design world, with album art, or something you're doing with your live stream, or something that you want to have looking the right way, digital or otherwise, you can email me or leave something in the Discord, or send a link or post a link or something. If you have stuff that you'd like to get feedback on, anything from a sketch to a final logo that you're not completely sold on, send it over in whatever way you can over the next few days, and we will send all of that to Leslie. She will cull through whatever probably she thinks is the most valuable to sort of discuss in an open forum like this, and then you'll be able to get some free advice from someone that's really an amazing mind in that space. So with that, enjoy your weekend. We'll see you next week. Love you guys. We'll see you soon.